moving too far. Getting lost.
Fifth is Dishonored. Dishonored is a 2012 stealth action-adventure video game developed by Arcane Studios and published by Bethesda Softworks. Set in the fictional, plague-ridden industrial city of Dunwall, Dishonored follows the story of Corvo Attano, bodyguard to the Empress of the Isles. He is framed for her murder and forced to become an assassin, seeking revenge on those who conspired against him. Corvo is aided in his quest by the Loyalists, a resistance group fighting to reclaim Dunwall, and the Outsider, a powerful being who imbues Corvo with magical abilities. Several noted actors including Susan Sarandon, Brad Dourif, Carrie Fisher, Michael Madsen, Lena Headey and Chloe Grace Moritz provided voice work for the game. Game is played from a first-person perspective and allows the player to undertake a series of assassination missions in a variety of ways, with an emphasis on player choice. Missions can be completed through stealth, combat, or a combination of both. Exploring each level opens new paths and alternatives for accomplishing mission goals, and it is possible to complete all missions, eliminating all of Corvo's targets, in a non-lethal manner. The story and missions are changed in response to the player's violent actions or lack thereof. Magical abilities and equipment are designed to be combined to create new and varied effects. During its 3 years in production, several versions of Dishonored were developed. Before the creation of Dunwall, inspired by late 19th century London and Edinburgh, the game was set to take place in medieval Japan and 17th century London. During development, test players discovered methods of exploiting the available powers and abilities to achieve unexpected outcomes. Instead of restricting these techniques, the designers attempted to redesign levels to accommodate them. Dishonored's music score was produced by composer Daniel Lichto, represent London in the 19th century. Fourth is Saints Row 4. Saints Row 4 is an open-world action-adventure video game developed by Volition and published by Deep Silver. It is the fourth title in the Saints Row series. In the game, the playable character is the leader of the Third Street Saints, a street gang that has become the world's most powerful and popular organization, and must fend off an alien invasion after becoming president of the United States and receiving superpowers. The player is free to explore their environment while completing main and side missions at their leisure. The game incorporates elements from science fiction video games and films, and continues the series' reputation for over-the-top parody. It was released in August 2013 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360, and was later ported to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Linux in 2015. The game was Volition's first after its sale to Koch Media in early 2013. The supernatural and superpower concept for the game started in Enter the Dominatrix, a cancelled expansion planned for Saints Row the Third, which the team expanded into Saints Row 4. Volition later released a director's cut of Enter the Dominatrix as downloadable content for Saints Row 4 alongside How the Saints Saved Christmas, other weapons, costumes, and vehicle packs, and a standalone expansion, Saints Row: Get Out of Hell, which serves as the epilogue to the story. Saints Row 4 received several limited and summative edition releases, and was briefly banned in Australia. Critics praised Saints Row 4's humor and character custom action options, but criticized its lack of challenge. It sold over 1 million copies in its first week. Humor are liberated from alien occupation as the player completes side missions in occupied districts. Liberated districts increase the player's hourly income, which can be spent on weapons, skills, and perks. Side missions include insurance fraud, where the player jumps into traffic to collect insurance money, demolition derby-style mayhem, and super-powered foot races. Saints Row 4 has a 2-player cooperative mode. Third is Prototype 2. Prototype 2 is a 2012 open-world action-adventure video game. Developed by Canadian studio Radical Entertainment and published by Activision, it is the sequel to 2009's Prototype. The game was announced at the 2010 Spike VGA Awards. Versions for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One were released on July 14, 2015 alongside the first game as Prototype Biohazard Bundle. Separate versions of the games became available on August 12, 2015. The game features a new protagonist, James Heller, as he goes on a quest to destroy the Blacklight virus. The story is one of revenge, as Heller wants to kill Alex Mercer, protagonist of the original Prototype, after his family was killed in the outbreak of the Blacklight virus. While the game was a top seller for a period of time, its sales would eventually result in the downsizing of its developer. 3 years after the events of the first game, U.S. Marine Sergeant James Heller, after returning from touring in Iraq, discovers his wife and daughter to be declared dead, causing him to rejoin the military in the fight for NYZ against the Blacklight virus. Heller is briefed on the previous outbreaks in Idaho in the 60s and in NYZ in the events of the first game. He later finds Alex Mercer, one of the main protagonists in the first game, now has lost faith in humanity and begins chasing him. Second is Quantum Break. Quantum Break is a science fiction action-adventure third-person shooter video game, developed by Remedy Entertainment and published by Microsoft Studios. The game was released worldwide for Microsoft Windows and Xbox One in April 2016. The game centers on Jack Joyce, granted time manipulation powers after a failed time machine experiment, as he comes into conflict with former friend Paul Serene over how to deal with an apocalyptic end of time. In addition, the game includes platform game elements in less action-oriented segments. There are also junction points that affect the game's outcome. The game features episodes of an integrated live-action television show, featuring the actors of the characters. The characters interact with the player's choices, displaying the results of the decisions made. The game originally was envisioned as a sequel to Remedy's previous game, Alan Wake. The game's focus was shifted to time travel, as Microsoft wanted a new intellectual property with interactive storytelling. The team consulted scientists while creating the fictional science in this game. While the video game portion was developed internally by Remedy and directed by studio veteran Sam Lake, the TV side of the game was developed by Lifeboat Productions and directed by Ben Katai. Sean Ashmore, Aidan Gillen and Reddick portrayed important roles in the game. First is Infamous Second Son. Infamous Second Son is an action-adventure video game developed by Infamous Second Son, stylized as Infamous Second Son, is an action-adventure video game developed by Sucker Punch Productions and published by Sony Computer Entertainment for PlayStation 4. It is the third installment in the Infamous series. The game was released worldwide on March 21, 2014. Like in previous Infamous games, the player-controlled protagonist possesses super-power abilities that players use in combat and when traveling across the city. The story follows protagonist Delsin Rowe fighting the Department of Unified Protection, DUP in a fictionalized Seattle. Over the course of the game, Delsin acquires new powers and becomes either good or evil as player choices influence his morality. Sucker Punch began planning the game as early as 2010, when they began discussion with Sony to bring the Infamous series onto a new generation of hardware. They provided feedback to Sony on what hardware evolutions they would like to see on the PlayStation 4 system. Sucker Punch considers Second Son a fresh start for the series because it features a new protagonist. Delsin Rowe's superpowers were designed to feel fluid and suited to the open-world design. Infamous Second Son was met with generally positive reviews. Critics praised its gameplay, dynamic combat, visuals and design, while criticism was aimed at the game's morality system, which some found to be dated and binary, as well as the game's repetitive side missions. The story was met with a mixed response, with some critics finding the narrative and characters to be a step backwards from previous installments in the series, while others viewing the writing as an improvement over its predecessors. Infamous Second Son was a commercial success, and sold over 1 million copies within 9 days, making it the fastest-selling entry within the infamous franchise. When not completing story missions, players can explore the city and complete activities such as tagging graffiti spots or assassinating DUP secret agents. The city is split into districts that are all initially controlled by the DUP, but DELL gradually liberates each district by completing activities. When DUP control of a district falls below 30%, DELL can enter a district showdown that requires him to eliminate a wave of DUP forces, eradicating DUP presence there.
Make the ground shake.